Imagine sitting in a courtroom and suddenly a witness stands up and says, "He told me, get dressed, we're going to go kill Kid Cudi." Yeah, you heard that right. We're not talking about tabloid rumors or petty celebrity feuds. We're talking about life or death threats, guns, break-ins, and a brutal beating behind closed doors. This is the shocking testimony Capricorn Clark just dropped in the Diddy Trial, painting a picture of control, fear, and violence that left the entire courtroom stunned. From accusations of chasing Kid Cudi through the streets, to locking employees in rooms for days with lie detectors, to bragging about power plays that could make or break a career, the details are darker and more explosive than anyone expected. But here's the part no one saw coming. Clark says Diddy's rage wasn't just about Cassie and Kid Cudi. It was about keeping an entire circle of people terrified, trapped, and obedient. What really went on behind the scenes at Bad Boy Records? And why are some of these details only now surfacing in court? You're watching Chatter Muse. Don't blink, because what's coming next will stun you. Hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe, because we're unpacking the courtroom bombshells everyone's whispering about, and you won't want to miss a second. And if you thought that opening was intense, buckle up. On the morning of December 22nd, 2011, Capricorn Clark says she was jolted awake by a furious pounding on her apartment door. Standing there was Sean Diddy Combs himself. No bodyguard, no assistant, just Diddy, wild-eyed, pacing, his pants split at the crotch from sheer agitation, and a gun in his hand. Clark says he didn't waste time with explanations. "Get dressed," he barked. "We're gonna go kill Mescudi." Yes, Mescudi. As in Scott Mescudi, better known to the world as Kid Cudi. Clark described those moments to the courtroom in chilling detail. She watched her boss stalk back and forth like a man possessed, gripping the firearm, working himself into a frenzy. Prosecutors are now arguing this wasn't some emotional outburst. It was a deliberate escalation, part of a larger pattern of violent control, possibly even tied to organized racketeering activities. And here's where it gets darker. Clark says she knew she couldn't say no. She feared that refusing to go with him, refusing to get in that car, might put her life on the line. So she followed. She followed a man she says was already plotting to break into Kid Cudi's home, a man fueled by jealousy, rage, and a hunger for revenge. Imagine the terror, sitting in a car outside someone's house, knowing your boss is inside, armed, looking for blood. Clark's testimony didn't just paint Diddy as an angry celebrity. It painted him as someone willing to cross any line, drag others along, and leave a trail of fear in his wake. And we're just getting started. But the nightmare didn't end at the front door. According to Clark, while she sat frozen in the car, Diddy stormed into Kid Cudi's home, armed, determined, and seething. Inside, who knows what might have happened if Clark hadn't had the presence of mind to grab her burner phone. In a whispered rush, she called Cassie Ventura, trying to warn her. Diddy's armed, he's looking for Cudi. And here's where the tension skyrockets. Clark says, while she was still on the line, she heard Kid Cudi's voice on speaker in the background, confused, alarmed. "He's in my house?" That moment alone sent chills down the courtroom's spine, but it didn't stop there. When Diddy returned to the car, he wasn't finished. As they pulled away, Clark says Diddy spotted Cudi driving in the opposite direction. And without a second thought, he gave chase. Picture this. A high-speed pursuit through Los Angeles streets, a music mogul behind the wheel, armed, furious, trailing a fellow artist. All while police sirens began wailing in the distance. And what finally made him stop? Not remorse. Not second thoughts. It was the unmistakable sound of those sirens cutting through the night, forcing Diddy to pull himself together and veer off toward a club on Sunset Boulevard, as if nothing had happened. This wasn't just celebrity drama. This was a powder keg of violence, ego, and lawlessness playing out on public streets. And for Clark, it was clear. If Diddy could do this, what else was he capable of? And if you thought the break-in and car chase were the peak of the violence, you were wrong. When they returned home that night, the rage didn't fade. It exploded. Clark testified, her voice shaking, that Diddy unleashed his fury not on Kid Cudi, but on Cassie Ventura. Inside his house, dressed only in a robe and underwear, Combs attacked Cassie with 100% full force. Clark described the harrowing scene. Blow after blow, Diddy kicked and beat Cassie as she crumpled to the floor, curling into a fetal position, quietly sobbing, hoping it would stop. But it didn't. And perhaps most chilling, no one intervened, not his team, not the people nearby. Clark says she was frozen, terrified, knowing that if she stepped in, she'd be next. She was forced to watch, just a few feet away, as Cassie absorbed the brunt of a superstar's unchecked violence. The courtroom sat silent as Clark recounted the night, not as a rare outburst, but as part of a toxic, dangerous cycle where power, control, and fear ruled every interaction. And the question hanging heavy in the air was, how long had this been going on? And how many people were too afraid to stop it? But the violence wasn't just physical. It was psychological, brutal, and relentless. Clark told the court that in the days following the attack, Diddy's rage didn't cool. Instead, it turned sharper, more targeted, and even more chilling. At one point, she says, Diddy exploded, screaming at both her and Cassie, "I should kill you, ease." Not in passing, not as a joke. Clark made it clear this was a threat she took very, very seriously. But Diddy didn't stop there. He turned to Clark privately, delivering a career-destroying blow. "You'll never work again." He reminded her that he held the power, that he could make one call and end her future. And then, perhaps the darkest moment yet, Clark says Diddy told her bluntly that he would make her kill herself. Imagine the terror of knowing your life, your career, your safety, were all dangling by a thread held by one furious, powerful man. This wasn't just celebrity ego. This was a masterclass in psychological warfare. A man using his influence and intimidation to trap the people around him in silence and fear. And Clark, she says she was left with one overwhelming instinct: survive. As if the death threats weren't enough, what came next sounded like something out of a crime thriller. Clark told the court she was locked in an office for 5 straight days, not at a police station, not by law enforcement, but by Diddy's own people. The reason? 3 pieces of high-end jewelry had gone missing, and Diddy wanted answers. Clark described how she was strapped into a lie detector machine, hour after hour, day after day, around 40 hours in total, until Diddy was satisfied she wasn't the thief. But it wasn't just the endless testing. Clark says a heavy-set man administering the polygraph looked her straight in the eye and threatened, "If you fail this, we'll throw you into the East River." Let that sink in. This wasn't some formal workplace investigation. This was intimidation, humiliation, and psychological torture, orchestrated by a man who, in Clark's words, wanted total control over the people around him. And when she was finally released after 5 days, it wasn't because the system worked. It was because Diddy himself gave the word. In that moment, Clark says, she realized just how small and powerless she truly was inside the world of Bad Boy Records. A world where survival often meant keeping your head down and staying silent no matter what lines were crossed. And just when you thought the psychological games couldn't get darker, Clark's testimony pulled back the curtain on a world most outsiders never see. She revealed that working for Diddy wasn't just about business meetings, music deals, or celebrity events. It was about running the personal machine, including the ugliest, most secretive parts. Clark told the court she was routinely ordered to procure drugs for Diddy. Not just party drugs like ecstasy or cocaine, but also prescription medications. Sometimes even under her own name. This wasn't a one-off errand, it was part of her job description. And the hotel setups? Clark described in unsettling detail how she was expected to prepare rooms in advance, unpacking clothing, laying out baby oil, making sure small cameras were positioned, and setting up toiletry bags packed with drugs. But perhaps the strangest part, the IV drips. Clark said Diddy required intravenous drips for himself and Cassie, allegedly filled with serotonin boosters or other recovery agents to help them bounce back after heavy drug use. This wasn't just the life of a celebrity. It was a carefully curated, behind-the-scenes ecosystem of indulgence, excess, and cover-up, all held together by a team of people who, like Clark, often had no choice but to comply. For the courtroom, this wasn't about flashy hotel rooms or rock star antics. It was about power dynamics. The quiet, relentless control Diddy allegedly exerted over every detail, every person, every secret in his orbit. If you're wondering why someone like Clark, after threats, violence, and days locked in an office, would ever return to work for Diddy, the answer is as unsettling as the rest of her testimony. Clark told the court flat out, "He held all the power over me." This wasn't just about a paycheck or a job title. In the entertainment world where reputation is everything, Clark says Diddy's shadow loomed over her entire career. After the alleged kidnappings, after the threats, after being forced into silence, she says she felt she had no choice but to crawl back and ask for forgiveness. Not because she trusted him, but because she needed the industry to see that she was valuable and not disposable. And here's where the defense tried to pounce. They pointed out that Clark voluntarily went back, even after all the abuse she claimed to have endured. But Clark's response was brutally honest. She wasn't running back because she wanted to. She was surviving. In her words, working with Diddy again was the only way to show others in the entertainment business that she was still worth hiring, still worth trusting, still someone who could stay in the game. It wasn't loyalty. It was survival under a system where one man's approval could make or break your future. And for the jury, that raised an even deeper question. How many others were trapped in that same web of power and manipulation? And if the courtroom hadn't already grasped the extent of Diddy's need for control, this part drove it home. Clark recounted moments so demeaning they left her in tears on the stand. She described how, in front of other women, Diddy would summon Cassie like a puppet. Sit down, stand up, turn around. Commands barked not in private, but as a public spectacle, followed by the cruel jab. "You don't want to do that, and that's why you don't have a man." It wasn't about Cassie's actions. It was about power plays, humiliation, and showing everyone in the room who was in charge. But the humiliation didn't stop with Cassie. Clark broke down as she described another incident, this time directed at her. At Diddy's Miami home, she says he lunged at her, shoving her, yelling, "If you hate it here, get the out of my house." For Clark, that moment was more than just anger. It was the moment her personal boundaries shattered. The moment she realized that no matter how hard she worked, no matter how loyal she tried to be, she was never more than a disposable object in Diddy's world of domination. And sitting in court years later, recounting those moments, Clark wasn't just telling a story of celebrity misbehavior. She was laying bare a system of chronic control and calculated humiliation, one that left scars far deeper than anyone on the outside could see. These aren't just juicy headlines for the tabloids. These are explosive allegations of violence, manipulation, and calculated intimidation playing out in a courtroom, under oath, with the power to rattle not just Diddy's empire, but the entire entertainment industry. From threats of murder to psychological torment, from forced drug errands to public humiliation, Capricorn Clark's testimony has pulled back the velvet curtain on a world most fans never get to see. And the image it reveals? It's dark, it's dangerous, and it's nothing like the glossy surface we're shown on red carpets and magazine covers. So, here's the big question for you. What part of Clark's testimony shocked you the most? Was it the armed break-in? The savage beatings? The 5-day lie detector ordeal? Or the casual death threats that sent chills through the courtroom? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear what you think. And remember, this trial is far from over. You're watching Muse. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because we're staying on top of every twist, every reveal, and every jaw-dropping moment. Trust us, you won't want to miss what's coming next.